Avenue area, the girl was walking through the parking lot with her mother when she was hit. Plus,
how bad was it?
It got to 5 feet of sewage.
In your basement?
In my basement.
a Toronto homeowner inundated by floods is begging the city to step in. And
the main one was basically about our wait times for reservationists when they're trying to call and book a trip. That was getting a little bit out of control.
Reducing wait times and improving access across the city for the thousands of people who use Wheel-Trans. Riders weigh in on the ways the service could be better. Good evening, I'm Talia Ricci. We begin tonight with a double shooting that left 2 men seriously injured. It happened on Eglinton Avenue West, just east of Dufferin at a strip mall. Police were called around 8 o'clock for reports of a man with a gun chasing and shooting at two other men. Police arrived on scene to find 2 men with gunshot wounds. They were taken to hospital in serious but stable condition. Police spoke just an hour ago about the suspect, who is still at large.
Our information indicates that there was 1 male suspect, male black, unknown age. He was wearing baggy clothing and a mask covering his face. He was armed with a revolver and he was shooting at our victims, and he was last seen eastbound on Eglinton, just behind me here.
Police say this was a targeted shooting. Anyone with information is asked to contact them. A young girl is in critical condition tonight after she was struck by a car while walking through a parking lot with her mother. It happened near Allen Road and Lawrence Avenue late this afternoon in a parking lot next to an elementary school and daycare. Police say the 6-year-old girl was walking with her mother when she became distracted by a drain cover. She had left her mother's side, and that's when she was struck. She was rushed to hospital, breathing but unconscious. The driver remained at the scene. Police are now investigating. Residents of a neighborhood near Black Creek and Weston say they've had enough after 2 floods damaged their homes in less than a year. Now they're demanding the city spend money to fix the area's sewer system. As Greg Ross tells us, one of those residents actually had contractors in his house trying to fix the previous damage when the latest flood hit last week.
This is what Cordella Avenue looked like last Wednesday morning when a storm dumped more than 60 millimeters of rain on the city.
Every time you see those dark clouds roll in, you get nervous.
I definitely get nervous.
Ricardo Mota lives on Cordella Avenue. He says every time there's a storm, all of the water flows directly towards his house, as well as some of his neighbors.
It's coming right into our basement. It goes right down this driveway. A lot of times we have to fight the water as much as possible, try and create a barricade.
Last week, about 30 centimeters of water ended up in his garage. Some seeped into his basement. Coincidentally, there were contractors there at the time repairing damage from a much bigger flood last August.
Last summer was the worst that you had ever seen it.
That I've experienced, yes. Yes.
How bad was it?
It got to 5 feet of sewage.
In your basement?
In my basement.
This is a picture Mota took of the murky water in his basement, and this is what it looked like out on the street. Mota and his family were forced to leave their home for 2 months while crews cleaned up the mess.
But you can still see the water line here from 2018.
Yes, that's correct.
Mota submitted a claim to the city, hoping they would take responsibility for the damage, seeing as it was the result of an overflow of the city's drainage and sewer system in the area. But the claim was rejected by the city insurance adjuster. In a letter to Mota, they said the city's sewers were designed and installed in accordance with the engineering standards prevailing at the time they were installed and have been properly maintained.
I don't blame the residents for being angry. I'm angry as well.
Ward 5 City Councillor Francis Nunziata says there was a similar flood on Cordella Avenue 6 years ago.
When it happened in 2013, the city did a study.
The Toronto and Region Conservation Authority also did their own environmental assessment at the time, looking at areas affected by flooding from nearby Black Creek, including Cordella Avenue. The TRCA made recommendations for modifications to the infrastructure along Black Creek, including berms, crossings, and this channel that runs behind Cordella Avenue. These modifications were never implemented.
The only way you're going to solve solve the flooding issue permanently is that you need to do that infrastructure work.
But the TRCA has re-examined their 2014 study and now says those modifications would not address the highest risk areas like Cordella Avenue. They have since launched a feasibility study looking at the most risky areas and solutions. In the meantime, Moda and his neighbors have been forced to take matters into their own hands.
We understand as a neighborhood that we have to fight this.
The TRCA feasibility study is expected to be completed in March of 2020. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
This weekend will mark 6 years since Sammy Yatim was shot and killed while on a streetcar. Today, a disciplinary tribunal withdrew the charge against a Toronto police officer who tased the dying teenager. Sergeant Dusan Pravika used his stun gun on Sammy Yatim after he was shot on a streetcar in 2013. Another officer, James Forcillo, was convicted of attempted murder in the case. Linda Ward has more.
Well, Sergeant Dusan Pravika was not in the tribunal today. He was represented by his lawyer for the brief hearing. The tribunal heard that the charge of unlawful and unnecessary exercise of authority had been withdrawn, quote, resolved by alternative means amenable to both parties. Now, the charge stems from the July 2013 tasering of 18-year-old Sammy Yatim aboard a Toronto streetcar as he lay on the ground of the streetcar dying. He had been shot multiple times by Officer James Forcillo, who's now serving time in his death. But while he lay there after being shot, Sergeant Pravika tasered him. Testifying in Forcillo's trial, he said that he was still clutching the knife that he had on board that streetcar, and he thought that he was going to get up. Now, Yatim's family issued a complaint to an independent police watchdog who found that he used unnecessary force and acted in haste, and so he was charged. Today, the tribunal heard that earlier this month, Sergeant Pravika and Sammy Yatim's father, Nabil, had a meeting in which Nabil Yatim was able to air his views. He said that he was satisfied with that meeting, and so the charge was withdrawn. The lawyer for Sergeant Pravika said that he was only acting according to his police training and police policies and willingly entered into mediation. The lawyer for the Yatim family says that now they will move forward in trying to further the cause of changing police protocol for use of force as they mark a grim milestone. This Saturday marks the 6-year anniversary of Sammy Yatim's death. Linda Ward, CBC News, Toronto.
It's been called the crown jewel in the province's multi-billion-dollar transit expansion, a new relief line running through the heart of Toronto. But there are concerns tonight that what the province wants is going to take longer to build and follow a different route than the relief line already planned by the city. Lorenda Redekop has the details.
Near Yonge and Bloor, one of the busy stations, a new subway line is set to relieve congestion from frustration at current service and the various plans from different governments.
I've taken the TTC all my life and the service just gets worse all the time, and they should have started the relief line years ago.
They don't have to fight, they have to fix the city. It's difficult to get anywhere. You can't park, you can't get nowhere. Yeah, so they can't keep moving this. It's just too long, it's overdue.
The city's relief line plan went from Osgood Station ending at Pape. The province's proposal is for a much longer line, starting near the exhibition, traveling farther south, and continuing north to the Science Centre. According to the Toronto Star, the route would follow less than 3 kilometres of the relief line. The city councillor who's on the TTC board feels it's a waste of time and money.
It's been very frustrating for all of us councillors down here, and now the fact that even the work that's been done to date, they're going to be using less than half of it. I mean, it really is a mess.
He also doesn't see how all that work can be ready by the province's timeline. 2027, more than 15 kilometres of track with above and below ground sections. The mayor says city staff is going over the plan.
Believe you me, the one thing that I'll be looking for is not just anybody's estimated timetable, but I'll be looking for officials and experts to say, yes, that timetable is reasonable, because delay is the greatest enemy we have right now in terms of addressing some of the congestion and environmental and other problems.
Ontario's transportation minister confirmed the initial business case is in. Federal Liberal Adam Vaughan fired back. Your lines on either map cannot be seriously costed. All we have received in Ottawa is a crude map and guesstimates on cost. The NDP is insisting on seeing the documents.
I have a hard time believing that he can build double the track for a cheaper amount of money in less time. I have a very hard time believing that. He needs to present his plan with all the information so that we can have a cold, hard look at that.
The Transportation Minister's office says that details about this plan will be released soon, though they didn't give us an exact date. And they said that the public will be consulted about this in the fall. Lorenda Redicomp, CBC News, Toronto.
Meteorologist Colette Kennedy joins us now for a first look at our forecast. I spent all day outside before I came into work today. What a beautiful day.
Yeah, wasn't that just perfect weather to be doing outdoor activities, not having to worry about sweating
Exactly.
like crazy? Yeah, and you know what? We're going to have another day or two like this where we have really comfortable conditions, but it's going to be a gradual build in terms of the temperatures and the humidity, but really comfortable for midweek, and then you'll see it start to change. Let me just kind of walk you through, because what I want to point out here to start things off is that tomorrow we're talking about low 30s into the prairies, eastern prairies. So that air is eventually going to be reaching us, but we'll look for a high similar to today, 26, 27 towards southwestern Ontario. Into Thursday, we're going to climb up a degree or two. Still looking at that hot air back to the west of us. And then what happens as we start to get into Friday and towards the weekend, yeah, we're going to find those temperatures going up 30 degrees or even into the low 30s as the heat comes back Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but the humidity up there as well. Zoom in for a closer look. High pressure really digging in as it does. We get the clearer skies overnight through the day tomorrow, quieter conditions as well. Up into cottage country, you could have a stray shower, but we're not seeing that for the GTA. When we will have the next chance for a shower, I'm going to tell you coming up a little later in the show, but overnight tonight, 15 degrees and 26 tomorrow afternoon. Another comfortable day to be outside.
Looking forward to it. Thanks, Colette.
You're welcome.
Wheel-Trans continues to make changes aimed at reducing wait times and improving access across the city for its 43,000 customers. A meeting on their 10-year strategy, launched in 2016, was held earlier this evening at Metro Hall and gave the public a chance to weigh in on the improvements. Daniel Clark was there.
With more than 4 million rides annually, TTC's Wheel-Trans is widely used.
I've been a customer with Wheel-Trans for about 10 years or more, perhaps, and I really appreciate the effort they go through to accommodate us.
But some riders say the service can fall short. Roshan Lala says the wait time to book a ride is one of her biggest concerns.
Sometimes it's very fast and sometimes it can be quite irritating. It could be about 45 minutes.
Access hubs are large.
The TTC is trying to do better and asking the riders who know it best for input.
That was getting a little bit out of control, and we made sure that we addressed that concern by hiring some more reservationists.
To help improve access, they're also online and working towards launching a mobile app by the end of the year.
Customers, instead of waiting on the phone and calling reservationists, they can use their phone.
Is that available 24/7?
Yes, that'll be available 24/7 all the time.
More than half of the reservations are already made on the website.
I stopped using the phone a long time ago because of long wait times. So for the most part, I use the app and I book online.
What was the longest time you ever had to wait on the phone?
2 hours and 10 minutes.
Some, though, prefer the old-fashioned way.
Well, I don't have a computer at home, so for me it's better to wait on the phone and, talk to somebody. I prefer to talk to somebody than I get a response.
We have average wait time key performance indicators, so we measure those monthly, and we can tell exactly how we're performing when it comes to average wait times every month. So that's how I can tell that we're going down between from March until now. We've seen a sharp reduction.
Daniel Clark, CBC News, Toronto.
I'm Natalie Nanowski. Promoters are renting out homes like these on Airbnb to throw massive parties. I'll have more on this story, including how communities are reacting. That's coming up.
The Toronto Parking Authority is halting its plans to build a parking lot after Mayor Tory asked it to reconsider in favor of building housing.
The principal focus should be on the affordable housing near transit, not on parking near transit. So it's one of those things where I just think this was a time to stop and reset.
The TPA initially planned to build a Green Pea parking lot on Eglinton West at Caledonia, but voted today to have the city review its plans after the mayor's urging. Neighborhood advocates agree with Tory, saying they'd rather see the land turned into affordable housing. The land shown here in this picture currently contains two two-story buildings and a single-family home. It's also about half a kilometer away from the future Caledonia station. That station is set to open in 2 years and will connect with the Barrie-Go train line and the Eglinton Crosstown LRT. Residents in the Bayview and Finch area say a home on their usually quiet, tree-lined street has recently become the scene of some wild parties. It's all become too much for neighbors. And as Natalie Nanowski reports, the man who organized one of the parties is also behind something similar in another part of the city.
This isn't your neighbor's pool party. It was advertised on Instagram like an event at a club, open to everyone. Jack Dupuis snapped the video before things got out of hand.
So 200 plus people, cars parked, jammed. People coming through this neighborhood to get to the party because they could hear the noise.
It's not the first time this has happened on this quiet residential street. The home was listed on Airbnb, and neighbors say it was rented out for huge parties that were often open to the public.
Some nights it's really, really bad.
Like you can feel the whole house vibrating.
Cavell King lives 2 doors down from the vacant North York home. She says people were spilling out on the street during the July 3rd party that was put on by this Toronto promoter.
The next morning, I had literally cleaned up the garbage on the street. I found liquor bottles and beer bottles and air bombs. So basically, they were setting off firecrackers and scaring like everyone.
We contacted the promoter of the July 3rd party, and we haven't heard back. This is not the only home this promoter has rented out. He rented out another home on Airbnb just 3 days later in Etobicoke to throw another huge party.
Yeah, it was pretty loud. Yeah, nothing out of the ordinary, but yeah, loud enough.
Neighbors here say they didn't call the police. This party was also advertised on Instagram as an event for people over 17 with an entrance fee. The city says these types of parties aren't allowed in residential zones, and it's looking into complaints against the North York property. We contacted that owner to ask about her listing on Airbnb.
I'm just wondering, is the home still currently being rented out for parties?
No more, never.
No more. Airbnb says it also removed that listing, but the one in Etobicoke is still active. The company goes on to say that it's working with the city to ensure fair regulations, but people in these communities say those can't come fast enough. Natalie Nanowski, CBC News, Toronto.
A live look at our city tonight, and it's looking pretty clear out there. Lots of sunshine is on tap for the rest of the week and hopefully the weekend. Colette Kennedy is back after the break with your extended forecast. Stay with us.
The weather update is brought to you by Train Extreme Conditions Testing. It's hard to stop a train, really hard. Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
Colette's back now with our extended forecast, and we talked about how we are kind of in that sweet spot where it's not too hot, not too cold, perfect summer day. How long will we get to see that for?
Yeah, that pendulum is really swung, and now we're into these very comfortable conditions. And in fact, our temperatures running a little bit below average, a little below seasonal for this time of year. We should be closer to 27.2 or lows around 15. We're pretty close on those lows, but today just a little bit on the cool side. Well, to answer that question, we've got a couple more days like this, and then the temperature and the heat really coming in as we get closer to this next weekend, which, hey, maybe that's okay with most of you to see the heat coming for the weekend as it is summertime. The outlook, though, is looking good. So in the overnight hours, we have clear skies. We'll start off with a lot of sunshine, see some clouds building tomorrow afternoon. That's through the day Wednesday. Even Wednesday evening looks pretty good, although overnight could have a few showers up into cottage country. Very isolated stuff. But I want to point out what happens on Thursday. We're going to see a little bit of lift coming through, so still some sunshine. But as we get into the afternoon hours and early evening hours, we could see a few scattered showers, maybe even a thunderstorm show up into Thursday, afternoon and evening, and then once again things clearing out and looking good all the way through Friday, talking about sunshine back in the picture and not looking at active weather for Friday. So it's going to be a pretty nice run. Just watch that little piece of time that we're going to have into Thursday afternoon with that risk there. But overnight tonight, 14 degrees for southwestern Ontario, 15 for you in London there, but tomorrow afternoon, highs of 25 to 27 degrees. Really comfortable conditions, too, in the Windsor area, which can be somewhat unusual to have the dew points not too high when we're talking about getting in towards the end of July here. Overnight tonight in the GTA, 14 to 15 for those overnight lows, maybe just a few clouds, not much out there. A few clouds into the afternoon hours, highs of 25 to 26 degrees. And then we look ahead at what's happening with that 5-day forecast. So I can show you the numbers in terms of the temperatures on the thermometer. That Thursday it's 28, Friday it's 29. What you don't see here is how it's going to feel. So the Humidex, we'll start to see it coming up, and I'll begin to put those back on the map for you, because by Friday, feeling like the low 30s, into Saturday and Sunday, it's actually going to feel like the mid 30s, and into Sunday, we'll likely see some scattered showers coming back through as well.
Still a pretty good forecast. Thanks, Colette.
Yeah, it's a great run. It really is. You're welcome.
These are my coworkers. Jobs, please. What if somebody calls the cops and says what? I spent $5,000 at a strip club. Send help.
What has strippers taking on brokers, the origin tale of the Joker, and the story of a woman who changed history? The major film screening at TIFF this year, of course. We'll tell you more after the break.
It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood, a beautiful day for a neighbor. Would you be mine? Could you be mine?
That's Tom Hanks singing a happy tune as the beloved children's TV personality Mr. Rogers in the biopic It's a Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. It's just one of the feature film selections announced for this year's Toronto International Film Festival. Some other highly anticipated titles set to screen at TIFF include Joker, starring Joaquin Phoenix as the Batman villain, Hustlers, starring Jennifer Lopez, Constance Wu, and Cardi B as a band of New York strippers who rip off Wall Street brokers, and that's based on a true story. And another biopic, Harriet, based on the life of freedom fighter Harriet Tubman.
To mark your freedom.
And for a full list of this year's lineup, head to our website, cbcnews.ca. That's our show for you tonight. Thanks for watching. Mike Wise has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6. Good night.